Spit the Dummy, the segment where we involve you, the viewer. Last week I spat the dummy myself at a lack of interest from you guys stumping up and offering a view on the program. We've now got Crazy Jane, who's out of Melbourne, who's joined us. That is her Twitter call sign, or whatever you call it. Her real name is Marion Dalton. Depending on what you've got to say, though, I'll go with either Marion or Crazy Jane. Welcome to the program. Thanks for your company.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for having me.
So what do you want to spit the dummy about? What's your gripe?
My gripe is the way that the media, when they're interviewing the various politicians about the asylum seeker issue, don't challenge them on the notion that offshore processing is the only way. Because, I mean, your editorial at the start of the program was really great. You said you're for onshore processing. When was the last time Gillard or Abbott or Bowen or even Scott Morrison actually had a question that asked them, why not onshore processing? What's so wrong with it? Have you costed it?
I'm pretty sure that I asked Scott Morrison exactly that on Australian Agenda a couple of weeks ago. You're not a viewer, clearly.
Well, I try to be, but you're on very early in the morning.
Well, we've got replays for people like you. You can watch it at 8:30 at night. But anyway, this isn't an advertisement for Australian Agenda. I tend to agree with you about that. But I think the problem here is, and this is a gripe surely less with the media from your perspective, but the politicians, all sides seem to be, or all major party sides seem to be in agreement on offshore processing, and there's nothing anyone can do about that.
Oh, that's nonsense. Whether they're in agreement or not, the media's job is actually to represent the public and ask the questions that are being asked out there. If you look on Twitter, you look on Facebook, you look on any of the social media, or you just talk to people, people are asking, what's wrong with offshore processing? Why can't we do it? And the media then has a responsibility to be asking those questions, not just let the government or the opposition sit there and say, well, we're going to go with offshore processing, it's the best way. No one's asking, why is it the best way? What's wrong with the idea of onshore processing? If we want to break the people smugglers business model, why don't we just pick them up from a transit country and fly them here? It's probably cheaper than keeping the Coast Guard and the Navy out here.
I've got to say, Crazy Jane, I tend to agree with you about that. I mean, I have to say that Jessica... what's her last name, the economics? Jessica Irvine, for the Sydney Morning Herald. Sorry, Jessica. She wrote an interesting piece that you would have presumably seen where she did talk about some of those cost factors that you're writing about. But I think that the media are reflecting the public on this. I wish you were right, but I think that you'll find that most polls say that most people take, a pretty hard line on asylum seekers. They like offshore processing, despite the cost, despite the humanitarian questions, despite the reality that the money that's involved and the numbers that we're talking about just aren't that many.
Well, of course they like it because that's all they're hearing about, isn't it? People
stop
read
shooting
editorials
the messenger.
of a
It's the
very
politician's
specific
fault.
type.
Stop shooting the messenger. It's not the media's fault.
Yeah, it's the politician's fault, but the media needs to pin them to the wall about it and do it more often straight to their faces, not just in editorials. Editorials are great, but what people see are the interviews on the television at night, on the Agenda program, on Sky, on news on other channels, on the current affairs programs. People see an interviewer talking to a politician and the politician is coming out with their talking points and they're not getting challenged on them.
All right.
And I think that's where there's a real responsibility for the media to step up and say, all right, you've said what you're going to say, now answer some questions.
All right, Marion, we're going to leave it there, but I'm going to call you Marion, not Crazy Jane, because that's not such a crazy idea. I'll guarantee you that the next time I interview Scott Morrison, my first question to him will be to take him on about the issue of offshore processing. Thanks for taking the call up and coming on the program. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. It's good to be there.
All right, thank you.